Hey church family, my name is Rochelle and I'm a member here at Hope Church Toronto North. And today we have the privilege of speaking with Selina Luca, who's also a member here at our church and works in ministry. So we're very excited to hear about her ministry and all that God is doing in her life. So welcome, Selina.
Thank you.
Yeah. So first of all, how about you let us know what organization you serve with and what specific ministry God has called you to do right now?
Yeah, so I work with Power to Change students, which helps students take one step closer to Jesus. And we do that through evangelism and discipleship. And so it's good that you asked me what I do specifically now, because I've worked with them for 15 years.
Wow.
And I've had many different jobs, working with students on campus, specifically Toronto Metropolitan University. But my main focus and main job now is actually doing global missions and sending to North Africa, Middle East region. And so I feel like I'm going to share a little bit about this region because it is a part of what is known as the 1040 window, where the most unreached people groups live in. And so when we say unreached people groups, they're the people who do not have easy access to the gospel. I'm working in populations of about 99% Muslim population, so very, very few Christians, underground churches, like not really accessible Christian materials for them and things like that. And so I help send missionaries to that area and make sure that they love God, love their team, and love their neighbor by learning the culture and engaging and sharing their faith there. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's very exciting. And in this current ministry that you're doing, how do you see it making a difference in people's lives?
Yeah, so actually, I have a verse that I was like, this is where I will share this verse.
Take it back to the Bible.
Take it back to the Bible. And so in Romans 10, it says, how then can they call on him they have not believed in? And how can they believe without hearing about him? And how can they hear without a preacher? And how can they preach unless they are sent? As it is written, how beautiful are the feet of those who bring the good news. My job is sending people to go and do this, to bring the good news to people who haven't really heard the gospel before. And they're people too who are in need of the gospel. Like all of us as Christians, we have messy and broken lives that God uses to actually show other people who we are. And so so the things that we're seeing now in that region, in the North African Middle East region, is actually incredible. In the past year, we've seen people get baptized. We saw this one guy who was coming in and out of Bible studies and asking good questions and then kind of disappearing. He ended up having like a dream where Jesus took his hand. He was in a mosque. Jesus took his hand and led him out of the mosque.
Wow.
And I think that's true of what God is actually doing currently in that area of the world. But one of the biggest issues with being sent overseas to these areas where there's not a lot of access to the gospel, not a lot of resources, is it's lonely for the missionary and it's hard for them. And so my job is to actually make sure that they're doing okay, that they have what they need to do. And so I help them. I share the gospel with them, with the Christians, so that they can actually share the gospel with people like this one guy who had this dream about Jesus.
That's incredible because, we hear about missionaries and we hear about missionaries going, but we often forget that there are people who need to send the missionaries and care for the missionaries so that they're able to do God's work. So thank you for doing that work to support our missionaries.
Thanks.
Yeah. And how do you see God stretching and maturing you as you engage in this work?
Yeah, I think over the course of the past few years, I think God has really softened me to help me just see how when we enter into the messiness of other people's lives, it can be really heartbreaking in many ways. And you're exposed to so much. But at the same time, it really actually shows you how gracious God is. And I think the thing that I have learned in this is that God is still God, no matter the season in life. And I think of somebody like David in the Bible. Like God was David's God when he was defeating Goliath. But he was also his God when he was sinning. And I think that's true for the missionary overseas that I care for, who is struggling in their mental health or emotional health, who might be doubting as well, even though they're sharing their faith with other people. And that's true for me as well, as I wrestle with my own struggles and disappointments in the ministry. I think sometimes we have like a high bar for people who are missionaries and Christians, and then we're disappointed when they're like, oh, you're a human, you're not a superhero. But really, I think what it does is it helps us recognize that all humans are in need of God and all humans are in need of Jesus. But that God is there and God is near. And I think that's the thing that he's taught me, that he's very present, that he is always working, and that he is so gracious and loving and forgiving.
Thanks, Lynn. That's really encouraging. And I tell you this all the time, but yeah, just really appreciate your wisdom.
Oh, thank you.
That's great. And just one final question. If people want to support you in the work that you are doing, how can they do that? And what difference would that support make?
Yeah, definitely need tons of support in various ways. Like I think of prayer and how much I need prayer, how the people that I serve need prayer as well. And like I just think of how like the devil is prowling around like a lion seeking someone to devour, and that could be me. It could be you. I don't know. And so praying is a good way to help support, praying for wisdom in my next steps. I might be moving to Denver to kind of get a counseling degree to be able to one day move overseas to work there in North Africa, Middle East, to serve our missionaries in a closer way than over here. So I'm just praying for wisdom and discernment in that, and for God's provision as well. And I think people could also help support me financially as well. So the way that Power to Change works is people, the way that we get like our salaries or money for trainings or seminary or all those things, people have to give of their finances and join in partnering through Power to Change, and then that goes to specific accounts that go to us. And so people could support financially on a monthly basis. I need quite a bit of money, and it's such a hardship as well. So people can pray for encouragement in the midst of that, because I am like currently just focusing on raising that financial support, and it can be quite discouraging. So both prayer for encouragement and by giving as well, and then connecting me to other people who have a heart for North Africa and the Middle East, or for missions, for missionaries, for mental health. There's so many ways that people could maybe have an interest in what I'm doing. But I think also just asking me personally and having conversations with me about how they could support me or join me. Yeah.
That's great. So yeah, if you are touched by what Selina has shared and you are interested in partnering with her, please definitely reach out to her. You'll see her at church on Sundays. And yeah, she'd love to answer your questions and chat more about the ministry that God is doing through her. So thanks, Selina, for sharing. And yeah, I look forward to seeing how God will continue to use you.
Thank you.
Yeah, God bless you.